Okay, let's go ahead and bop through some of these responses and see if we can figure out what these should be. First of all, we recognize our characters who we're speaking about here. Yeah, I hope we do. I hope we do. Yeah, it's our love story characters. So the main thing as we're looking at our Banco de Palabras and deciding how we're going to respond is to think whether or not the conversation is taking place between two people or whether or not they're talking about someone else. Again, think of whether or not we're using one ball or two, whether or not it's just the Avengers ball involved here or if the Princess ball is at play as well. In this first scenario, it looks like it's just a conversation between two people. And the thing to note is that the one gentleman is significantly older than the other. So we have to think about if whether or not this guy, when he's speaking, is going to be being a little bit more formal, as we called it, or trying to show politeness. And then realizing that because of that, maybe some of these will be keywords for us to use as we're deciding what he would say. Okay. And then over here, it's our characters from our love story. We've got Felipe, Ronaldo, and Paula. But notice there's no mouth bubble coming from Paula because she's not saying anything. Instead, these two appear to be talking about her. So we'll see if we can use that to figure out kind of what we're talking about here. For numero uno, we kind of already actually talked about that one together if you watched the video for how to add accent marks. But that one you should be saying, hola, ¿cómo te llamas? We can see that the mouth bubble is coming from the older gentleman talking to someone younger. He's not being more formal, but he's initiating the conversation by saying, hola, and then ¿cómo te llamas? Like we have been since the first day of class. For numero dos, it looks like this little guy in the orange is then responding to this man. So as far as responses to the question ¿cómo te llamas? If we go over to our options here, there are a couple that would make sense for how to respond to that, right? First of all, we should probably be able to eliminate any of these questions, right? Because you're typically not responding to a question with another question, typically. So if he's responding to a very simple question of what's your name, I think we should be able to narrow it down to either soy Señor Ramirez or mi nombre es Pablo. Okay. Which one's going to make more sense, though? Would a young boy probably refer to himself as Mr. Ramirez? I'm thinking not, which means mi nombre es Pablo looks like a good fit. With numero dos done, we're able to move on to numero tres. And this one may have tricked you up just because what we'll notice is that it's also coming from the same speaker, right? Numeros dos and tres are both coming from the same speaker. So Pablo, as we learned his name is actually going to then turn the question back on the other person. Okay, turn the question back on the other person. And here, it looks like he's got a couple options left, either como se llama ella or como se llama usted. And it's probably not going to be como se llama ella because they're not referring to anyone else. He's asking him in response, what's your name? I chose como se llama usted as the number 3 response because after being asked, what's your name? He says, mi nombre es Pablo. Y después dice, ¿cómo se llama usted? Okay, now with that being the case, all this guy has to do is respond. And I'm going to go with soy Señor Ramirez. Soy Señor Ramirez. Perfect. That only leaves numeros 5 and 6 left for these last couple here, okay? And 5 and 6 are totally done in the other conversational scenario, where it's not two people talking to each other, it's two people talking about someone else, okay? So numero 5, Felipe looks like he's interested in knowing this gal's name. He's not going to ask como se llama él. We're going to go ahead and use the one that's in the word bank and say como se llama ella. Awesome. And then the buddy's response will be obviously the very last one up there, where he can simply respond with ella se llama Paula. And that covers your first at-home Paquete Diario. Hopefully it wasn't too terribly difficult, just something to kind of get you used to this process. Okay, chicos, espero que tengan muy buen día. All you have left to do today is a little ed puzzle.